Most veterans assume that if they're honest, follow the process, and submit the right paperwork, their VA claim should move forward without trouble. But what if I told you that's no longer enough? The truth is, thousands of veterans are being quietly flagged for fraud reviews. Not because they lied, but because they made small, innocent mistakes that triggered red flags inside the system. And once that happens, everything slows down, claims get stuck, decisions get delayed, and worst of all, your entire case might come under suspicion, even if you did everything right. What makes this so dangerous is that you're often not told you've been flagged. There's no warning letter, no alert in the mail, just silence. And while you're waiting for answers, the system is quietly combing through your records, looking for inconsistencies, patterns, or habits that fit a certain profile. That's how serious this has become. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 surprisingly common habits that are getting veterans flagged for fraud, and most people have no idea they're even risky. Some of these are things you may be doing right now, thinking they'll help your claim, but they could actually be working against you. And habit number 5? It's one that's exploded in popularity recently, especially among veterans desperate to get faster results. But the way it's being used is setting off alarms inside the VA like never before. If you've ever felt like your claim is taking longer than it should, or wonder why it suddenly went quiet, this might be why. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know how to protect yourself, avoid these red flags, and make sure your claim stays on track, just like it should. Let's get into it. One of the most common ways veterans unknowingly raise suspicion is by submitting claims with inconsistent medical narratives. It doesn't sound like a big deal at first. After all, symptoms can come and go, pain levels fluctuate, and memory isn't perfect, especially when you've been dealing with the same issue for years. But here's what many don't realize. The VA uses algorithms and human reviewers to look for patterns. And when your story changes, even slightly, it can trigger a flag. Let's say you originally filed for back pain and described it as chronic discomfort with occasional flare-ups. But a year later, in a follow-up or appeal, you describe that same pain as severe and constant, preventing daily function. If you don't explain what's changed, like a worsening condition, a new injury, or updated diagnosis, the VA might assume you're exaggerating. And that's when the doubts start. It's not just about major contradictions, either. Something as small as describing your sleep issues differently between appointments or forgetting to mention medication can be enough to create confusion. And confusion is the enemy of fast processing. Once your file gets marked as potentially inconsistent, it's often routed for a deeper review. And that means longer wait times, extra scrutiny, and sometimes even denial. Veterans who've served honorably shouldn't be penalized for telling the truth. But when the story isn't clear, the system doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why documentation is everything. Keep records. Write down your symptoms consistently. Bring notes to your appointments. If something gets worse, say so, but explain how and when. If you leave it up to the VA to connect the dots, they'll often assume the worst. And here's the kicker. Many of these inconsistencies don't even come from the veteran. They come from different doctors writing notes in slightly different ways. That's why it's so important to read over your medical records and ensure they accurately reflect what you shared. Because once conflicting statements on the system, they're hard to undo. This is just a beginning. But what's coming next might be even more surprising, because it has nothing to do with your records at all. Another habit that quietly raises red flags, and most veterans don't even realize it, is missing CNP exams or not being fully prepared for them. These compensation and pension exams are one of the most critical steps in your disability claim, but many veterans underestimate just how seriously the VA treats them. Show up late, skip without rescheduling, or come in unprepared, and your credibility can take a hit that's hard to recover from. Let's be clear, missing one appointment doesn't automatically mark you as fraudulent. Life happens. People forget or get stuck in traffic. But the problem is what happens behind the scenes. Every no-show or vague answer gets logged, and if it happens more than once, or your behavior during the exam seems off, the VA starts building a profile. And it's not a profile you want attached to your name. Even subtle things can work against you. Let's say you claim that knee pain prevents you from standing longer than 5 minutes. But during the CNP exam, you stand and talk for 15 without mentioning discomfort. You might not think anything of it. Maybe adrenaline kicked in, or you didn't want to complain. But to the examiner, it sends a message. This veteran's report doesn't match their behavior. And once that doubt is there, it sticks. Some veterans also hold back during exams, thinking that being tough or downplaying their pain will earn them more respect. But the VA doesn't reward modesty, it documents it. If you don't clearly describe your limitations, the examiner isn't going to guess. And what goes in that report carries more weight than nearly anything else in your file. What's worse, if a review board ever suspects fraud, they often point directly to missed or misleading CNP exams as the first sign something's off. One misplaced impression can quietly steer your entire case toward delay, reevaluation, or rejection. That's why it's so important to treat these appointments like a legal deposition, not just a routine check-in. The bottom line? Never skip these exams, never underreport your pain, and never assume the VA already understands your condition. Because if you don't explain it clearly, someone else will fill in the blanks for you, and they may not be on your side. But what happens when someone else is filling the blanks, and it's not even a doctor? What we're about to uncover next might just shock you. One of the most dangerous habits, and yet one of the most common, is letting someone else speak on your behalf without fully understanding what they're saying. This often happens when veterans rely on representatives, family members, or even unqualified consultants to handle communications with the VA. While it might feel easier to let someone else deal with it, that shortcut can quietly sabotage your claim. Here's the reality. The VA assumes that anything submitted in your name reflects your knowledge and intent, whether you wrote it or not. That means if your representative submits inconsistent information, exaggerates symptoms, or uses phrasing that doesn't match your previous records, it creates confusion. And confusion is one of the fastest ways to get flagged for a fraud review. Imagine this. A veteran claims their PTSD makes it impossible to leave home alone. But then a third-party rep describes them as actively volunteering at multiple community events. That might have been a misunderstanding or outdated info, but to the VA, it looks like a contradiction. And contradictions invite scrutiny. Even worse, some paid consultants promise fast results and high ratings, then stuff claims with boilerplate language and unsupported medical jargon that doesn't match your actual history. These red flag phrases might temporarily inflate your claim, but they also increase the chances that someone in the VA fraud prevention unit takes a closer look. Once inconsistencies pile up, VA adjudicators may begin cross-referencing your statements with your exam notes, medical records, even surveillance if it gets serious. And if they suspect you're letting someone else speak falsely on your behalf, even unintentionally, you could be looking at a flag claim or even a temporary suspension while they sort out. The lesson here? Be involved. Read everything before it's submitted. Ask your representative to explain what they're writing and why. If anything sounds exaggerated, vague, or not quite true, stop right there. Because once false info enters your record, it's almost impossible to take it back, and the consequences can follow you for years. But the risks don't end there, because in the next section, we'll explore how something as simple as your online activity, yes, even social media, might quietly be working against your claim. Another surprising way veterans end up under review: social media posts that don't match their claim limitations. It might sound unbelievable, but more and more claims are being flagged simply because of what someone posted online. And no, you don't have to go viral for it to matter. Let's say you're receiving compensation for a back condition that limits your mobility. Your medical records show chronic pain, trouble walking, and difficulty lifting anything over 10 pounds. But then a photo pops up of you helping a friend move, holding a heavy box, smiling with no visible discomfort. It doesn't matter that the photo was from a one-time good day. It doesn't matter if you paid for it later with 3 days of pain. To the VA, it raises a question. Is the disability as severe as the veteran claims? Here's the thing. VA investigators don't need to hack your account or break privacy laws. Public posts, tag photos, event check-ins, and even likes can all be used to build a picture of your day-to-day life. And if that picture clashes with the one painted in your disability claim, it can spark a deeper review. What's even more dangerous is how innocent it all feels. A veteran shares a photo at a family barbecue. A friend tags him in a group hike. Someone uploads a birthday video where you're seen dancing or laughing, or appearing far more active than your written symptoms suggest. These moments may be fleeting, but online, they live forever, and the VA can use them to question your credibility. This doesn't mean you should hide or lie. It means be aware. Be intentional. If you're having a good day and you choose to post about it, consider adding context. Felt good today, but I'll be paying for it tomorrow. Those small additions can go a long way in showing that your condition fluctuates, rather than leaving it open to misinterpretation. The bottom line, your online presence tells a story, whether you mean it to or not. And in some cases, it can be the story that gets your claim flagged. So before you post, ask yourself, if a VA reviewer saw this, would it raise a question? Because sometimes, a single post is all it takes to shift your entire case into the review pile. And while social media might get you flagged in silence, what we're about to cover next is even riskier. Because it happens in person, during a moment most veterans completely underestimate. Sometimes, it's not what you say in your paperwork. It's what you say during your compensation and pension CMP exam that triggers a fraud review. This appointment might seem like just another step in the process, but for many veterans, it's the single most dangerous part of their entire claim. Why? Because one small mistake, one offhand comment, or even just body language that contradicts your claim can put everything at risk. The CMP exam isn't about treatment. It's an evaluation. The examiner isn't there to help you heal. Their job is to document your current condition, verify your symptoms, and determine how consistent your statements are with your medical records and your reported limitations. That means everything you do, how you walk, how you sit, how you respond to questions, is being observed, noted, and sometimes judged with quiet skepticism. Let's say you claim daily joint pain that limits your ability to lift or bend. But during the exam, you instinctively bend over to tie your shoe without wincing. Or maybe you say your depression keeps you from leaving the house. But when asked about hobbies, you casually mention attending a few social events recently. In your mind, you're just being polite, honest, or human. But to the examiner, those answers can become inconsistencies, red flags that prompt further scrutiny. And it's not always fair. The stress of the exam can make you act differently. You might try to appear normal or minimize your pain because you don't want to seem like you're exaggerating. Ironically, that instinct to stay composed can backfire. Many veterans unintentionally downplay their symptoms in an effort to not complain too much. But the CMP exam is the exact moment you need to be precise, clear, and unapologetically honest about how your condition affects your daily life. That doesn't mean exaggerate. It means be specific. If you have good days and bad days, explain that. If an activity is possible but painful, say so. Don't assume the examiner knows, or will give you the benefit of the doubt. They're documenting what they observe and hear, not what they infer. One misstep during this short appointment can lead to a chain reaction. First a discrepancy report, then a claim delay, and in some cases, a fraud review that you never saw coming. So if you're approaching a CNP exam, treat it with the seriousness it deserves. Prepare. Be accurate. Bring documentation, if you can. And most importantly, remember, this isn't just a formality. It's often the most heavily weighted part of your entire claim. And what's truly unsettling is what happens next, when mistakes made years ago quietly come back to haunt you. Even after all the forms, appointments, and waiting, the real risk for many veterans doesn't come from what they didn't do. It comes from what they didn't know. These 5 habits might seem harmless, even routine, but in the VA system, they can quietly mark you for deeper scrutiny, not because you did something wrong, but because the system is built to detect patterns, and sometimes it misreads the ones you never meant to send. That's what makes this so important. Awareness isn't just about being cautious. It's about protecting what you've earned, because once a claim is flagged, even unfairly, the process slows down, gets more invasive, and often becomes harder to fix than it ever should have been. If you've seen yourself in any of these habits, now is the time to adjust. Keep your records organized. Be consistent in your statements. Take your CMP exam seriously. And if you're unsure, don't guess. Ask for guidance from someone who knows how the system works. Your benefits are more than just paperwork. They're recognition for your service, and you deserve to claim them without fear, confusion, or the threat of being misjudged. So don't wait for problems to surface before you act. Make sure your steps are intentional, informed, and protected. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. If this video helped you understand the hidden pitfalls of VA claims, leave a comment below and share one thing you didn't realize before today. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. And if you know another veteran who could use this insight, consider passing it on. Sometimes one video can save months of frustration. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you won't miss more content designed to keep you one step ahead in this system. Your support helps us keep creating videos that inform, protect, and empower the community that deserves it most.